The famous American legal and social scholar Charles Reich once said, technology and production tools are mindless instruments, and if undirected, they carry along with a momentum of their own. However, if used judiciously, they can be great benefactors to mankind, reconstructing everything in their path. Our next speaker is someone who has put these words into action. He's a scientist, journalist, and urbanist. He has done his MBA from Pondicherry University, MS in astronomy from Vanderbilt University, and a PhD in atmospheric remote sensing from the University of Washington.
He's also been a faculty member at IIMB Bangalore for 5 years. With interest vested in public problem solving, he founded Mapunity along with co-founding the Center for Public Problem Solving that works to solve citizens' problems. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mr. Ashwin Mahesh.
Good afternoon. I'm sure I know at least a few of you, but it's nice to see a few other faces as well. I have 10 points to make, but before I make those 10 points, and I realize it's 30 minutes, so I'll stick to your schedule. I want to make an overall observation, which is that there is a massive development deficit in the country. That is the real problem. I mean, if all of us are sitting in a room like this and saying we should do something that is social entrepreneurial, there's a reason. And the reason is we are in the bottom quartile of countries around the world in most economic and social development indicators. That's the reason we're all sitting over here. So anything that we profess to do in an organization or as individuals has to fundamentally change that reality. People often come and ask, what is your organization doing? What do you do on a daily basis? And of course, you can give an answer to that. I educate 37 kids. I treat 17 patients. I don't know. There's a lot of things like that go on. And, God bless all of them. These are good things to do. These are decent things to do. And the people who do these things need as much support as we can give them. But those are not going to fundamentally eradicate the development deficit that has put all of us in this room in the first place and put all of us in the space in which we decide we got to go and do something about this. So we have to start by asking the big question. And one part of the reason why there is a development deficit of this scale, and I'm sure a lot of people instinctively and from their experience recognize this, is that the way government works in India is extraordinarily weak. It is structurally weak. Its accountability is low. Its people are, of debatable value to the public interest. There's all kinds of things that are broken in the public administration and governance system. And if there is a major deficit in development around the country, a very large part of that is attributable to these problems in government and public administration. Therefore, this also has to be addressed. You have to come up with a set of things that you do on a day-to-day basis as part of your vision, as part of your mission, that not only have a chance of impacting the overall development deficit in the country, but also at the same time tackles one of the core reasons why there is such a development deficit to begin with. Both of this have to be true. So the 10 points that I'm going to walk you through are essentially what I think are ideas to keep in mind while doing whatever it is that you do. I looked at some of your profiles before I came here, and I also know some of you from your own work in the city and elsewhere. So you will have to figure out how this is applicable to each of your organizations, but I'll make 10 broad points. The first point is that you have to think like it's 1947. Right? You can't think like it's 2016, because if you think like it's 2016, you would have already considered many things. Imagine that in August 1947, there was something that was true that most of us never experienced after that. I mean, the people who were alive there were the only, and who continue to be alive, they know that, but we don't. There was once a time when there was the people of India, but no government of India. Remember that. There was once a time when there was the people of India, but no government of India. And what did they do? They formed the government of India. They created the government of India. There was once a time when there were the people of the state of people of Karnataka, but no state of Karnataka. So some people, in whatever constitutional way and other ways, they formed the state of Karnataka. There was no municipal corporation of Bangalore at some time. So people formed these things. Government was created by the citizens. Government did not create the citizens. Right? Too many of us go about our daily lives as though government created the citizens. You have to behave as though you have the right to create the government. And this is not just true in 1947. It is true every day. If there is something in your government that you think needs restructuring, retweaking, redoing, or just completely cancelling out, it is not only your um, right, it is also your responsibility to do that. So we have to think like it's 1947. That's point number one. The second point is to say, all of us believe that in our individual organizations that we know what we're doing and we know how the thing that we are doing is going to solve problems that we are working on. You talk to anybody, they'll tell you how they're doing their work and they'll tell you how this is going to fix some problem. But actually, that doesn't help. It's very unfortunate, but it doesn't help. Because given the extent of the just understand the development deficit. The country's economy takes about 7 to 9 years to double at current rates of growth. If you grow at about 7% or 8%, it will take you somewhere between 7 to 10 years to double the economy. Right? You need to grow 16 times. That is double, 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 double to become a middle income country. Not to become a rich country. To become a middle income country, you have to go double, 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 double. We're talking at least 40 to 45 years of 7 to 9% growth to become a middle income country. If you look over the last 45 years, the average growth might have been 4.5%, not 7 to 9%, the average growth. So at that rate, it will take 100 years to become a middle income country. Therefore, if our strategy is that, we just keep doing something, we come to the right solution and our solution will scale, yeah, it will scale, but your great-granddaughter will see it, not you. So you have to come up with a way of intervening in which something else scales. So this is my second point. It is not enough to find problems that you think you can scale. You have to increase the number of problem-solving people. If you increase the number of problem-solving people, their subsequent capacity for intervention in lots of places is the thing that brings scale to addressing the development deficit. Instead of 50 people in a room like this thinking and working on social entrepreneurship issues, can you create a society in which 5,000 people do this routinely in every city? Because if you do that, then you get a lot different way. You get scale much faster. Therefore, in your organization, and this has to be an organizational goal for you. It can't be that, yes, I want India to have lots of public problem solvers. But how do I, in my organization, help other people to become public problem solvers? This is the second point. You have to increase the number of problem solving people. The third thing, we're trying to build an ecosystem for change. In that ecosystem for change, all of us want our organizations to succeed. And at a conceptual level, we want other people's organizations also to succeed. But that has to be more than just conceptual. We have to help each other succeed. The idea that my social enterprise or my NGO is going to achieve something, it has legs, certainly, and there are people who achieve some of that. But fundamentally, you have to begin by asking, after all, when we go out there, what are we saying? We're going to solve other people's problems. Keep this in mind. The majority of the problems that social enterprises set out to solve are not felt by the founders themselves. And often not by if you're working on education, healthcare, and things like that, a very large number of the people working in social enterprises that deal with these things don't experience these problems very critically themselves. You've been to school, you've been to a doctor, you've been to, you had a college education. The kinds of people for whom you're trying to do these things have not had all these sorts of things. And therefore, we have the right motivation to begin. But somehow when we begin to run our own institutions, we lose sight of that. We're now starting to say, I'm running ABC Incorporated or ABC Trust Incorporated or whatever the heck it is. Essentially, you get locked up in your own institution's success. And there is a tendency to believe that our institution's success, the focus on our institution's success is justified because we are committed to making society succeed. But I think it has to be the other way around. You have to focus on making society succeed and your institution will succeed anyway. Right? And so your everyday focus has to have some component of it which is about making someone else succeed, not yourself. Right? It has to be deliberate. Fourth thing, embrace technology and embrace quantitative methods. Broadly, I mean, I don't want to stress the second point too much. Embrace technology. Like sometimes I see it's kind of fashionable, especially with this, with more and more professions arising in the social sector, in particular, and also in the social sciences, and in the liberal arts and humanities. Lots of people will tell you, I'm not good at math. In a world that is increasingly technological, being not good at math is not a fashion statement. It's an admission of incapacity. It's the reality. I mean, we may not like it. You look around, you look at all the people that you think of from very long time ago, when education was more broad-based. The Newtons and the Keplers of the world changed society. The Copernicuses of the world changed society. They were both liberal arts people and quantitative people. You have today, if there's a reason why institutions like Mapunity or even Janagraha or any of these institutions have traction in public problem solving, it's because these organizations combine qualitative focus, social science focus with technological capacity. So you have to understand that technological capacity is impacting the communication channel, technological capacity is impacting the problem solving channel, technological capacity is impacting the education channel. If your organization doesn't have technological capacity, you're at a competitive disadvantage, even if nothing else, with other organizations. And given where people's aspirations are going, you're at a competitive disadvantage in being able to solve those problems itself. Embrace technology, make it a deliberate part of what you do. Fifth thing, build public capacity. Everybody says, oh, if only we had a better government. But how many of us from our families have sent their children to government? Nobody. Right? We have reached the stage where a government job is seen as aspirational for one section of society. You have, like this Jat reservation agitation that's going on. A government job is seen as aspirational for one section of society, and there's another section of society thinking, I can't imagine that these idiots are actually, agitating to get a job in the Sarkar. And everybody's thinking the only reason they want this job in the Sarkar is because they don't want to work, not because they want to get somewhere through that job. It's a bizarre thing. So we have left capacity in government behind in an extraordinary way. We have to say that building up the capacity of our public sector, public administration, more than public sector, is our responsibility. And in the economic marketplace, people use this phrase public-private partnership. Public-private partnership is just a clever way of saying outsourcing. But public-private partnerships have not worked for that reason, because they've not really built public capacity. You can do one after the other of public-private partnership, and the government is as unable to do things at the end of each partnership as it was before. A partnership has to make you better and me better. A partnership is not simply about making me better. So we have to reimagine public-private partnerships, and there's a way to do that. You must say that in the private sector, what is it that you have that is not widely available in the public sector? Competence, capacity, a faster speed of learning, technological sophistication. These are the things that are available in the private sector easily. You must give these things voluntarily to the public sector. It's not about building contractual relationships in which you go and sell these things to the public sector. We built the Traffic Information Center for the Bangalore Traffic Police free. That's why they're able to monitor the traffic better and do something about it. The BlackBerry system was conceived and built free. Only the building of it cost some money, but the conceptual development of it was free. BMTC improved its bus system by conceptually understanding what direction-oriented services can do, and that stuff was done free. The design work was done free. All of us have a certain capacity for public problem solving, and giving that capacity freely to building the competence of the public administration has to be one goal for what we do. Many of us are also trying to fix problems that public administration should have solved. People come and say, I want to solve the education problem, but there are so many public schools. Some people want to solve the health problem, but there are so many public health centers. What are they doing? You can't be doing things that the public administration is supposed to do without focusing some of your work in improving the competence of public administration too. Lots of us in the public service sector, in the social sector, are actually afraid of the government. Right? Not a doctor who doesn't do his job at all. Some ministers and principal secretaries, so doesn't do his job at all. came into this forum or any classroom for a discussion on all of these things, and a room full of people with much better competence than either the minister or the senior civil servant will be falling all over themselves to try to convince the guy that he should do this and he should do that, and giving an inordinate amount of attention, respect, and needless focus to what they're supposed to do. You have to come at public problems like a citizen first. What the hell are you doing is the question that you should be asking first. 1 out of 3 children in this state graduate from high school. Right? 1 out of 3 children graduate from high school in this state. They will tell you that 62% of people who took the exam passed the PUC exam last year, but they don't tell you that only 62% of people who are supposed to take the exam took the exam. So if you factor that in, only 1 out of 3 children are graduating from high school. The question you've got to be asking is, we've got more than 50% of people who work in government service are teachers. More than 50% of the people who work in public service are teachers. Right? More than 50% of government service are teachers. And you have a system where across the country, 1 out of 3 children is passing. What the hell are they doing? You have to be able to say, what on earth are you doing? And you have to be able to say it without fear or favor. And actually, don't be worried about the consequences too much. I used to be advisor to the Chief Minister when we started India Against Corruption. And people would say, how can you sort of say, and Chief Minister was somewhat famous for certain things. Yadurappa was the Chief Minister at that time. So people would say, how on earth can you guys do both? And we would say, well, we say the same things in both places. He doesn't like it, that's his problem. You have to be able to hold your position as citizens and have government be accountable for what you are demanding. You can do what you do, but that cannot become a reason why you become sort of secondary or subservient to the administrative class. Build local credibility. Lots of people want to change, the hill districts of Orissa or the deserts of Rajasthan or the slums in their city. They haven't done a damn thing in their own neighborhood. There was a very nice article in Slate or Salon the other day. It says, oh, here's a crime-infested neighborhood with low education, with low water supply, low, sewerage, public defecation, and all of these things. This is in some part of Angola, and some kid sitting in San Francisco or Chicago thinks that he's going to join the Peace Corps and going to go save the neighborhood in Angola. You've been watching while all this happening, and you call them idiots, right? Why don't you do something? And I think that's important. In my neighborhood, they would never do that. They would not lay the road and come back and fix it the next day because I know all those people. So I have the ability to go and ask them, don't you think about these things? But what happens is the majority of us don't know the public servants in our area. We don't know the ward operator, we don't know the ward engineer, we don't know the valve engineer, we don't know anybody. And we think we're going to solve the problems without knowing anybody. Respect the market. Lots of us think there should not be a market for certain things. Education, healthcare, water supply. There's a big debate that goes on in every country about whether there should be a market at all for some of these things. Right? People say, oh, these things should be affordable and freely available. All that, I'm not going to deny all that. But you can't go around tampering with the market. Because in many, many parts of the country, in many countries around the world, the social sector market is providing something as an alternative to what public administration should have provided. You may want them to provide it at the cost the public administration should have provided it to, but that's never going to happen. Imagine going to a slum school in Hyderabad and saying, well, you can't really function because you don't have 2 acres. And 2 acres is the minimum needed to be recognized by the government of Telangana as a legitimate school. You can neither get that school 2 acres, nor can you make the person running that school get 2 acres and deliver that education at the cost that he's doing too. So there's a conundrum. We would like there to be no market in the social sector for certain things, but the reality is that today there is a market. Until the public administration delivers alternatives to the market that are affordable to a great majority of the public, please don't interfere with the market. Because you and I don't bear the price. The price is borne by all those kids and all those patients and all those other people who could have got even substandard services at some affordability, But because you went and messed around with the market, there are no services anymore. Right? I'm sure the Right to Education Act is doing some part of this today. I'm sure that the way we treat producers is a really interesting thing in this country. Everybody wants good governance. Everybody wants to consume good governance. Nobody has asked who should produce it. Everybody says my neighbor will produce good governance. You go to the neighbor's house, you'll find out he's also saying the same thing about you. You have to respect the market. You have to create outcomes. Focus on the problem with goals that focus on the problem. What do I mean by this? Don't focus on your solution. Focus on the problem. What is the problem? 1 out of 3 children are graduating from school. How does your solution address that? Don't tell me what you're doing. Tell me what the problem is and tell me how your solution addresses that. It's critically important. Because you can always do some good. Nobody goes about their life doing completely useless things. Once I went to my professor when I was in grad school, I went to my professor and said, I worked on a few things in the last couple of weeks, so I want you to look at it. So he looks around, and he said, most of this is not right. Then I found one thing that was right, and he said, well, you should be glad about at least this one thing, Steve. I did manage to do one thing that was right. And he said something which was factually correct and made a point, and that's probably why I remember it. But it was also a little harsh when he said it. He said, even in a dustbin, you can find diamonds sometimes. Should not become diamonds in the dustbin. It is not that what we are doing is not a diamond, but you can't be doing it in the dustbin. But if you are going to do the diamond thing, please do it in the diamond shop. Right? We should be solving the larger problem and being able to say, this is how the thing that I'm doing relates to the larger problem. You have to measure your work. It's extremely important. You have to measure your work. You have to measure your work against the problem, not against what you are doing. You can't say I was doing X last month and this month I'm doing 2X, therefore I'm better. If you are going from X to 2X and the problem has gone from X to 3X, you are not working. Very often in this country we have a situation where the problems are running at 100 kilometers per hour and the solutions are running at 1 kilometer per hour, and sometimes the solutions are running in the opposite direction at 1 kilometer per hour. So the fact that you are doing something at 1 kilometers per hour is irrelevant to a problem that is running at 100 kilometers per hour. You have to have metrics for deciding whether the thing that you are doing is adding up to solving the problem. You have to understand what is the thing that you're doing and how is it going to solve the problem. What this means is that initially you may not be getting to solving the problem, but at least the thing that you are doing is focused on the problem itself. The last one, you have to dream publicly. You have to dream publicly. The reason I talk about increasing the number of problem-solving people, the reason I encourage institutions to do more than what they themselves can is very simple. If you don't dream publicly, you can't achieve publicly. It is always possible to make your neighborhood school a little bit better. It is always possible to make your neighborhood health facility a little bit better. But dreaming publicly is the thing that makes the society better in which these things happen all the time. Which means you have to be out there. You have to be out there as an evangelist for the outcomes that you are pursuing, not merely a solution provider, not merely a proponent of this. You have to dream publicly. And people respond to that. People are looking to be led. People are looking for aspirational ways of thinking about the future. They want somebody to point the way, which means we have to be part of that discussion about pointing the way. You're all part of important pieces of a very large puzzle. You're providing solutions to things that are super critical out there. But you need to tell your story in a way that says, this is my goal. This goal is achievable. All of us have a role to play in achieving that goal. I'm doing my part, therefore do yours. I'll give you an example. When we were setting up the traffic control room, there was a situation where we needed to buy something called an L3 switch. It's a very sophisticated switching technology device from companies like Cisco make that. And I had no idea what an L3 switch was. The only switch that I knew was on the wall, you put the fan on and things like that. So So I went to Cisco and I said, this is what we need from you. You need to give me an L3 switch. We'll put it in this control room for 6 months. And we'll see whether it works. If it works, the police will put out a contract to buy this switch. You can also bid in the contract. If yours is the lowest price, we will buy your switch. Otherwise, you will say thank you and return the switch that you gave. Now, you would think, who would do such a thing? That any company would say, get lost. You're not even giving me the assurance that you're going to buy it, even if it works after 6 months. But Cisco actually did it. And many other companies, I think, would have done it. There's a reason for it. You have to think about this. Too many people believe that other people are bad. You got to ask somebody, why is this not happening? You know, they'll tell you that people are bad. Then you ask them, what about you? Are you bad? But you know, other people are bad. So the people are bad is not what they actually believe. They believe that other people are bad. I jokingly tell my wife, you know, all the maids say that their husbands are either beating them or cheating on them or something like that. Mathematically, this is not possible unless the maids are cheating on their husbands also. When you create a society in which you believe everybody is bad and cynical and will act to maximize only their self-interest, you will actually get that. Because the consequence of believing that people are bad is that you are sort of accepting that they are bad and maybe subtly even encouraging them to remain bad. But if you go out there and say, I trust you, I not only trust you, I expect you to do the right thing. I expect you to do the decent thing. Lots of people will not do it, but there will also be a very large number of people who will do it. If we want to build a society in which our social entrepreneurship and our activities and our NGOs is successful, we have to begin by believing in the decency and the positive capabilities of individual people. And you have to say that that's the thing that on a daily basis. Think like it's 1947, increase the number of problem-solving people, make each other succeed, embrace technology, build public capacity, hold government accountable, respect the market, have local credibility, focus on the problems, measure your work, and dream publicly. The last thing is not on my list, I always say this too. Have fun. Have fun. It is extraordinarily complex out there. It's extraordinarily difficult. And you know, in classrooms like this, these are, I said to a lot of people, I've been doing development work since the time I was 17 or something like that. And I feel like I'm a child of the development family. In many ways, this is my home. There's a reason why I know half the people in this class. You know half the people in your home, I'm sure. I also know half the people in my home, even if it's a big home. And part of having fun is to say that, you know, like in a family, we respect what other people are trying to do. We respect that they have their ups and their downs. We respect that they have their idiosyncrasies. But we actually like them. We want them to succeed. We want them to be the best that they can be. And it is this capacity to imagine empathy for other people, affection for other people, that makes it possible for you to take that model into a much larger world. And having fun is an important part of all affectionate relationships. Good luck.
I'm Tina, IIMB student. So, sir, my question is, you are also working and trying to solve many problems, and we know that you are very successful in attracting volunteers. So, what is that you do differently to target this right set of volunteers and making them available at right point of time?
Whatever seemed like the most, people say, why do you start working on the traffic problems and work with the police and all of that stuff? Well, one way of looking at it is to say, well, you know, I'm stuck in traffic too, might as well try to fix it. But another way of looking at it is to say there's a perfect, did you know, for example, that for every year that the policeman works on the street, he will die 1 year early. Right? When you stop at a traffic light, if your vehicle stops long enough, a 5-year-old child will come up to your mirror or window and beg in front of you. We're not talking about adults, we're talking about 5-year-old children. If a 5-year-old child is begging in front of you, what is your obligation? Simple, right? It's very easy to say. And if you were the mother of that 5-year-old, how would you want society to respond? Forget about how would you want society to respond? You have to have basic decency in addressing these problems and empathy with other people's problems. After a while, they will judge for themselves whether you have these things or not. You can't win that by storytelling. You can't win that by argument. It's not your performance that attracts volunteers. It's not even success that attracts volunteers. It is intent that attracts volunteers. If people believe that you're working on the larger problems with a purpose to actually solving them in a way that they agree with,